Why hello there, and welcome back to Tabletop Ferox, the show that I changed the name of specifically so that I could cover a wider range of tabletop gaming topics, and have thus far done, twice. You should use safety tools in your game is a thing that is very easy to say without understanding what you are talking about or why. And as the concept of safety tools becomes more common, use safety tools becomes the entire conversation, while ignoring the actual conversation that the safety tools are supposed to be a part of. For example, let's look at let's just be generous and call it a section on safety tools from The Walking Dead universe, which is a game from a larger publisher. The Walking Dead television series takes place in a dark world with many situations that raise issues relating to personal morality. This game is no different. That said, this is still a game, and players should not be forced to deal with topics they find distressing in real life, or that make them feel unsafe at the table. To make sure everyone is having fun and feeling safe, we recommend that you use safety tools before, during, and after the game. Examples of such safety tools are pre-game discussion about the lines and veils for subjects that players want to avoid or keep off screen, safety cards to be shown during play by a player to indicate that they feel uncomfortable with what is happening in the game, and post-game debriefings. Always respect a player's wish to raise a concern at any time during the game, or even to leave the table if they want to, and don't forget to take breaks. More information about safety tools in tabletop role-playing can be found online. And I think this is a really good example of how people are just kinda missing the point, and is actually a symptom of a much larger issue. Not larger publisher hello kidsing the community on a regular basis. That is a different issue that I am not discussing in this video. That issue being the weird desire to want to boil everything down to little codified terms and mechanics, while completely ignoring any type of nuanced conversation behind any of it. Basically what I'm seeing is a lot of people saying, use safety tools, but then only really referencing safety tools as a set of quotable mechanics. And that is not how it works. You can't, like Free League in The Walking Dead universe, just say, okay, these are safety tools, it is a thing we have to get out of the way real quickly so that we can just say that we use them. They are part of a much larger conversation about game safety. Because here's the question that nobody seems to be asking. How do you feel about being expected to interrupt the game to announce to the group that you have a problem with something that everyone else seems fine with and would like the game changed to accommodate you? Because, personally, I am not incredibly comfortable with the idea of doing that. Just throwing an X card at the players and saying, there, now you have the ability to veto any content you find objectionable, therefore maintaining an appropriate gaming environment not my responsibility, is really not the fix-all solution that people seem to think it is. I know stupid people like to imagine that they are too smart for sociology to be a thing, but turns out that it is, and people are generally more than willing to sacrifice their own comfort or safety in order to not disrupt their place in a group. People don't want to be the one who's ruining the fun for everyone else, saying, oh, can we please not discuss that? I'm uncomfortable with it. And that is very much the way that it can feel, especially in situations like previously mentioned, where the safety tools are just introduced flippantly and in a reluctant style. A thing that is introduced in case we need them, but with the understanding that if you do use them, that means you're not cool, you're just trying to harsh everyone's buzz. And that goes even more so for situations like new games and con play, where you are dealing with new people who you are just naturally going to be more concerned about their impressions of you. You know, the exact situations that people specifically say are the ones that are most important to use the safety tools. Because here's the big point of this video. This video has a point, I swear. Safety tools are just tools for maintaining the game safety that has already been discussed. They go at the end of the safety discussion, not the beginning. You are supposed to have an actual adult conversation before the game to discuss the intended content, tone, and everyone's expectations. And yes, that does include what content the players are not comfortable with. And here's a wacky idea. You should be having that conversation anyway, for every game. Even if you are not having safety tools, there should be a discussion at the beginning of every game. Before the players even make their characters, they should know the expected tone of the experience they are getting into. And not doing so is why you end up with situations where one player thinks it's a grimdark edge fest, and another thinks it's a perfect opportunity to use their kobold paladin of cows joke character that they got off of Reddit. And yes, not letting players play intentionally disruptive characters is a whole other topic, but it is one we are not discussing right now. And yes, having that conversation and using these tools does mean that you may have to cut the scene where the players walk in on a group of trolls, half-eaten mermaid with a rusty pitchfork. But if the only way you can get a reaction out of your players is by throwing intentionally offensive content at them, then, maybe you're just a bad game master. Because when used properly, these types of conversations and tools can actually expand the possibilities of the game. Yes, putting it as simply as having a list of what is not allowed means that everything else is allowed is an oversimplification and is wrong. But knowing what everyone is and is not comfortable with can definitely open up new areas to explore that you might not have considered otherwise. And it's not because of the safety tools, it's because of the conversation you had beforehand that the safety tools are there to enforce. Because going back to sociology being a thing, group interactions are largely carried out based on a shared understanding of what the limits and expectations are for that environment. You do not have the same conversation with your family, friends, and coworkers. There are unwritten rules in each of those situations in regards to what topics are and are not appropriate, and how much those things can be discussed, and in what way. So when you are able to actually discuss all of that openly, you have the ability to set those limitations yourself for the expectations of this environment and what can be discussed there and in what way. Which does mean you can have adult conversations about sensitive topics. And yes, that does include where people's limits are regarding those sensitive topics. And that helps create an environment where people are more willing to bring up and engage with these sensitive topics that they otherwise wouldn't, because they feel that they are in an environment where they can do so safely. You see, it's about safety in the game. That's why they are safety tools. You make people feel safe in exploring ideas. Because here's another big thing. Ignoring the conversation is not a problem that is exclusive to safety tools. For a hobby based primarily on talking, a lot of y'all suck at communicating. Basic communication skills. They are not that hard. Okay, yes, I do realize that it is part of a larger social issue where people, especially men, are discouraged from having emotionally open relationships with pretty much anyone other than a romantic partner, but some of you aren't even trying, and it's really obvious. And in a discussion of safety tools, I feel like I would be remiss if I did not mention that sometimes the best, most effective safety tool is just not playing. If having your character eaten alive is a hard line for you, then you might just want to skip the all flesh must be eaten game. And thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Fightin' Flail Snails, Broken Unicorn, Randy Mulholland, and Toshi Rokuro. If you'd like to be cool like them, check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. But if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos floating around screen that either myself or the cold, heartless YouTube algorithm have lovingly selected for you, which I'm sure are lovely videos that you will also enjoy. And I will see you next time.